Hey, everybody. Welcome to Spotlight, a podcast where we shed some light on people in the baseball and softball community. This could be anyone from players, coaches, entrepreneurs, and anyone who has an interesting story that we can learn from. Today, we have an amazing guest. His name is Jason Ferber. You might know him as Coach Ferber. Coach Ferbs is the founder of Real Ballers National Teams, co-founder of the Evolution Event Series, and certified evaluator for USA Baseball, where they identify players for Team USA. Coach Ferbs develops young players and streamlines the college recruitment process for them. He also helps them navigate the decisions that go along with the MLB draft. In addition to all of that, he's amassed a fanatical social following by teaching, coaching, and mentoring incredible athletes and sharing his views on coaching. Coach Ferbs, welcome to the show.
Josh, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Really grateful that you would reach out and I love your stuff at Play Crate. I actually got Melissa, who I know you work with. She sent me a bunch of Play Crate seeds or sunflower seeds. My guys loved them. I handed them all out. I really appreciate that too. You guys are always like really generous with your stuff, which I think it's like that's like the spirit of what I like. It's like give, and then things will come back. You know what I mean? If you give freely. And so that I was really like when she reached out, she said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast with Josh from Play Crate?" I said, "Hell yeah, man! Thanks so much. Really appreciate that."
Yeah, of course. I mean, this has been a long time coming. I mean, we talked last year, and I'm just finally so glad to have you on, learn more about you, and show everyone what you're about. You know what I mean? So you're definitely one of our most requested. People are like, when are you gonna have Ferbs on? When are you gonna have him on? And I'm like, whenever he wants. So I'm super pumped to have you on. I'm glad we're doing this. But yeah, let's get into it. I think a good place to start is just background, right? You've had this long baseball career and coaching and playing. So take us from the beginning. Like, where did you grow up? How'd you get into baseball?
Well, I'm from a little neighborhood called Coney Island in Brooklyn, New York. You might have seen the movie Warriors or something. Some of these older movies. I was born in '77, so like growing up. It looks a lot different now if you come visit, and it's really nice now. I think it's tourist friendly. When they had the hot dog, like the national hot dog eating contest,
yeah,
Kobayashi and all those guys, I think that the city, when it was attracting hundreds, thousands of people to watch this, I think they had to step up the police presence, which was a good thing, right? And because it made people feel safe to come to the beach and hang out. But when I was growing up, that was like crack epidemic, early 80s, high crime rate, not a lot of, and my family had no money, right? So I went to public school, PS 188. My family was on welfare, right? So I know what that's like. And I was pretty much at that age just trying to figure out where I fit in, like most kids that are, 8 to 10, 11, 12 years old, and trying to figure out like, what am I good at, right? Like what do I have a knack for? Certain guys at that time, there's so many different groups of people, like these little subcultures, right? Not just races and things where it's like, all right, Puerto Rican guys. By the way, I'm half Puerto Rican, half Jewish. They used to call me Juan Epstein back in the day. Yeah. And like that's what I was saying. Like, hey man, you Jewish? I was like, I think it's not that like people. I think when they go, oh, race isn't important. No, it's not important. Like who you are, but it's nice to know like where a person's origins are if you can relate to them in a certain way or whatever. Like I was I think a kid that was searching for like his identity, because when you don't have money, the only currency you have is like things you do well at that age, right? If you don't have, like, if you got money, you can just go, hey man, I got these nice Jordans, I got a nice car, all this other stuff, my family. No, but so the kids in my neighborhood were like trying to do graffiti, right? They were breakdancing. Some guys were the athletic guys, right? The basketball guys, the football guys, the baseball, and then, rapping, guys were freestyle. I tried all of those different little subcultures because that's when you do. You try different things when you grow up. My father was not a baseball guy. My older brother actually taught me how to play. My father played basketball a little bit. He's a Jewish guy. He looks like you. My father looks like you. same style, face and everything. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, but I was glad that I was able to that in one way, you look back and you wish that maybe, man, I wish my father would have like taken a lot of time to like throw me BP and hit me ground balls and show me this and that and everything else. But the flip side of that coin is because he didn't force me one way, I was able to figure that process out myself. That's, I think, real important for young kids. If you take that ability away for them to find out what everybody, I believe, has a talent, some type of that. It might be drawing beautiful artwork, right? It might be playing a piano. But I really think that people have these things inside them that you just have to locate it. But if I try to force somebody into doing something that I like just because I want them to do it, you think you're getting ahead, but I feel like you could be falling behind in the other thing. If you were meant to be Jay-Z, right? I use that analogy sometimes. And, Jay-Z was not good at basketball or football, right? But he was really good at rapping, right? Mm-hmm. Creating rhymes in his head and spitting them out. If you say, Jay-Z, you're a baseball player, we're going to chase after this, and you didn't allow him to just go out in the street and compete with guys on the street and freestyle rap, maybe he doesn't turn out to be who he is and make $1 billion doing the same thing he did when he was, 13. So my first background and introduction to any kind of baseball related stuff was stickball. Mm-hmm. My brother, back in the day, you used to gamble like it was $1 pizza, like it was a slice of pizza and a little Italian ice is what you had. It's about $1.75. I think you can get like Italian ice, slice of pizza, and a Coke or something. It's pretty cheap. And you basically went 2-on-2 with guys, and it was like, you win in a stickball game, the other guy's got to get you a slice of pizza. So that was the first introduction I had to any form of like baseball. Wiffle ball I played, but stickball was the first thing I tried. I fell in love with it right away. And I think the reason I fell in love with it is because like I didn't have a lot of good things going on for me at that time. But, like when you get a good feeling, something gives you a good feeling and something that you can look in the mirror and say like, man, I really like that about myself. I think I fell in love with that aspect of it, getting picked first on a pickup game and saying, even though I was younger than the other guys, I could still hang with them. That made me feel really good, and like there's a lot of other kids that I grew up with that if they didn't have a knack for it to start out with, or at least want to get better in practice, they just give up because the feeling of getting picked last is too embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
And quit. But that's my first introduction to it.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think like looking back at the way that I played baseball growing up, that you played baseball, I feel like we're kind of losing that a little bit. Maybe I'm just getting older and I have this view of the world, but we used to play wiffle ball. We used to play stick ball. We used to go out in the street and just play. And there wasn't so much pressure, right? So like kids that are 10, they're already thinking about the major leagues. When I was 10 years old, I was like, I just want to play baseball. We could play for 10 hours a day down at the field. That's just what we were doing. I mean, do you think that, coaching has changed so much? There's such high level coaches out there. There is so much data, so much analytics, which is definitely pushing the game forward. But do you think people are losing kind of that organic way of connecting to baseball like you did playing stickball or wiffle ball back in the day, where kids are just pushed into AAU now? Do you think people are losing kind of that organic connection and they're way too focused on going pro or exit velo or something and just not focused on kind of that pure joy of playing stickball?
Yeah, well, I mean, like great players, they have great imaginations, right? And the imagination aspect of becoming great, you want to keep that intact with young guys. But a lot of the reasons that maybe coaches might get frustrated if they just put a kid into an AAU program too early and just start specializing him in this one thing and just trying to make the ball come out of his hand a certain way. And you start focusing on all these little tiny things. We all learn how to get our reads in pickup games in the street. That's where you learn to get reads, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you are waiting to try to like have an instructor like instill baseball instinct inside of you, and you're a little bit you're gonna be a little bit playing catch up. Now, I don't want to sound like one of these guys that's like, yeah, when we grew up it was so much better. It's different. I'm good with change and I'm good with adapting to change. But when you take everybody off the street, right? Once money comes into play and you can bring everybody off the street and train them inside. People are going to do that. And I don't say it's necessarily bad because you need indoor facilities. I use indoor facilities. It's great to have places where you can go and practice your craft. It's just that it has to be a nice, the balance. I feel like we've lost balance. I don't feel like we've lost like, the game. The balance of it has become, it's not the mixture of street competing with peers, right? With no authority figures. The other side to that coin, Josh, is that the age group thing. Like what you lose in street games is that you don't need to be 12U and born on May 13th or May 30th. You don't need, nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
Can you play?
Yeah.
Can you add value here? Do you have heart? Do you have feel? Are you going to be able to come out here on the street with some older guys and not embarrass yourself and get thrown off the field? Now, if you take all that stuff away, that's when kids lose a little bit of that feel, right? So in DR, you can see it. Like the kids that are 8 years old, you see them shagging on the field with guys that are big leaguers, right? We don't do so much of that right here. Like usually it's like very organized, and it gets to a point where kids' view of baseball becomes, I have to have an umpire telling me, monitoring this game. I need my parents in the stands. Again, when you were 12 years old, did you act the same exact way around when your parents were watching what you were doing or when you were by yourself with your friends? No. I mean, yeah, you're going to be able to be a little more free. And be the idea that you need an authority figures to control everything and you can't go out and do it with just a group of guys in your neighborhood. I think that says a lot about, just the way that you don't have to pay every single time you play. Mm-hmm. You don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, we just used to play so much. We used to play pickle. We used to play stickball, and we definitely didn't have the high level of coaching. We didn't have video. We didn't have any of these kind of high level analytics. So that, I mean, the game in the last 5 years even has just changed so dramatically. But I think one thing that, no matter how much analytics, how much data, whether you're a coach in the 80s or now, kind of the same principles always stay behind a coach. You might be teaching different things. You might be using different tools, but at the end of the day, teaching is teaching. Teaching, people have been teachers for thousands and thousands of years. And I think that kind of, people have certain principles that they're coached by. So I wanted to bring up, it was a quote you had in a blog article. And you said, I would take a video of one of my guys during front toss or something and send it in a group chat and ask for suggestions. Like, what do you like? What do you not like? And, it seems like you get to know your players so personally. And it's not like binary, like you pay me for a lesson, I give you feedback. And then if you're not paying me, we're not friends. It seems like you just have such great relationships with players. And I just wanted to know, is that something you consciously facilitate? And, what is that process, because I just feel like you're so good at that.
It's the number one thing that I'm after. That's probably, I'm glad that it stands out. And it makes me feel good that other people see the bond that you can create with a kid. Because I took a little bit of a different approach than I saw a lot of other guys around me doing, and just what I had experienced growing up. I try to think about, what drove me to be passionate, wake up every day, passionate about what I was doing. And like, I remember that the teachers I had in school, the ones that adapted to the personality of the students, generally, that's my dishwasher going. I don't know if you can hear
it. That's fine. That's fine. We can go right through it. You can barely hear it.
Like I feel like the best teachers that I had were the ones that connected with me on a personal level. I tried harder in the classroom because I knew they cared. Mm-hmm. The guys that were really blasé and just kind of like monotone and just went through the whole thing, like, here's your syllabus, go do it, right? Yeah. I could never connect with those guys. I also feel like, one of the things that allows me to do that is because I'm not trying to grow a travel baseball organization, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're trying to grow and make a lot of teams, travel teams, or just make multiple teams, I don't know if necessarily that's how the game was designed, right? Because I can either make a big impact on a few people or a very little impact on a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So if I was trying to make keep growing. Like a lot, like there are places out there that are trying to just grow, expand, 10 teams, 20 teams, 30 teams, 40 teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had two teams at one time, 2 years ago. And when I made the decision to say, instead of growing, I'm going to go cut back. I'm going to one team. And it's not even considered an organization to me. It's a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, if once you classify something as an organization, that means implies you're trying to have sustainable amounts of revenue streams coming in. And so when I get a bunch of people, I can't put the individual attention on each kid, right? And the first thing I need in order to make any kind of impact on anyone is trust. That's for me, right? It starts at that first line of honesty, right? So like when coaches, I didn't feel like they had my back, but would try to tell me to do something growing up, I would half-ass it, right? I'll be like, all right, cool, I'll yes them. Yep, all right, I'll try that. As opposed to a guy that I know the only reason he's out here is because he wants to see me shine on a baseball field. His heart is true. And you can feel that energy. It's undeniable, right? Kids are smart, right? So if I'm just trying to collect a check and I'm out here and I'm not engaged, if I am, pointing out, like whispering everybody's like about their accomplishments, but like shouting out their failures. Like Drake said in that song, shout out people's failures and whisper their accomplishments. It's like all I'm here to do is find flaws in little kids and be like, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong. What's the fix? What's the suggestion? Mm-hmm. It's like the exact same thing. And why trust is so important, Josh, is because if I never met you before and I just saw you on the street and I said, hey man, like I listened to your podcast. Like, this is what you should do, man. You need like a different microphone. You also need to get some graphics and do this and that. And I was giving you business suggestions.
Yeah.
Like, all right, man. Thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Now, if me and you, like, we talk a couple of times a week for a year, 2 years, and you're constantly helping me, I'm constantly helping you. And one day I say, hey man, you might want to, I was looking at your podcast and you might want to try like there's some reverb or something on you. Mm-hmm. You would be like, oh, thanks, Ferbs. I appreciate that. There's a reason why certain people we trust and we take their suggestions, and another reason why you don't. I think a lot of baseball guys think that because they've played at a certain level, mm-hmm. I made it to the big leagues. Now you listen to what I say. You should be honored to be in my presence. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen that all the time too. And I think one of the things that's really come out with all the analytics, all the video, all the social media, what's come out is 10, 15 years ago, you almost had to be in the big leagues to have any type of credibility. Now I feel like that's not the case at all. You have to really, trusting, building trust and caring about your students should be a prerequisite. It's not, but it should be. But in addition to that, like I feel like anyone that really wants to learn hitting has all the data and information in front of them to really make an impact on kids' lives. So what I'm seeing is like the best hitting coaches out there that I love to follow. They didn't even play in the big leagues. They might have played indie ball. They might have played minor leagues, but there's people who can play and there's people who can coach. Obviously, you need a base level understanding of how to play baseball. You need to have played it at a certain level to understand a lot of the intricacies of the game. But there's big leaguers that have like amazing swings, amazing work ethic, everything. But if you can't communicate that simply to people, then that's your job is you're a communicator. And I think that's one of the things you also do really well is communicate. And this might be a long version of a question, but I think you do a really great job personalizing and to speak to what you said, like every lesson you come to, if you're just constantly telling kids what they're doing wrong, I think like the misconception is if you go to a barber and you ask them if you need a haircut, they're going to say yes. If you're going to a lesson, people want to give you value. So they're going to say, these are the 3 things wrong with your swing. So, I love doing lessons. I've done lessons for so long. A lot of the guys I've done them with are now in college or even graduated. And, I would just preface everything with like, just because I'm saying this doesn't mean it's something's wrong with your swing. It's just something conceptual to think about. It's something that we can work on. It's something that could improve, but it doesn't mean that, like your swing's bad or it's wrong. And I think, a lot of coaches don't get that personalized. And I've seen you do that. So, how important is personalization to your players, right? You have this overarching theory, like either I'm a, rotational hitter, linear hitter. You talked about, leg kick, no leg kick. Like there's all these different theories, but if you can't communicate that and personalize that to the player, I don't think it holds any weight or any value. So how do you get to know players so you can personalize their hitting better?
I think that, first of all, the way that we talk to each other has a huge difference in just the reception, how receptive people are to it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the two most important words that I use coaching guys individually is what if, right? What if has that those two words sometimes create the absolute best scenario, best drills, because what you're doing is, instead of saying, no, that's not it, you need to do this. If you just say, what if we tried this and try to move this way?
Mm-hmm.
The player himself, in his mind, it kind of gives him the power to say, what if? Well, what if it happens? Okay, let's see it. No, it didn't work. All right, what if we did this? And when they unlock it and they kind of execute the drill a certain way after it's more of a suggestion than telling them what to do. I think that's one way to just by the way we communicate. Now, the other thing is, if we're not talking the same language, right? I'm never going to get anything across. It's never going to make an impact because I've tried this before, and Lance Wheeler, my friend, he talks about it too. Like, if I take 10 kids, right, and I line them all up and ask them, what does stay back mean to you, right? Nobody says anything, and they just go around, or actually have them write it on a piece of paper, right? What does stay back mean to you? One kid is going to say, let the ball travel. One's going to say, oh, keep my hands back. One's going to say, like, oh, keep my weight on my back leg. One's going to so my version of what staying back is and what another person is, we have to be talking the same language, first of all. So I have to get to know the player enough to know what language he speaks, right? When I first started coaching, I'm so thankful. When I first started coaching, and people see 138,000 followers on Instagram, they see Plate Crate, Josh Band, like, wow, this is a big thing, but they don't see the beginning, right? And that's one of the things I'm grateful that you brought me on here for, because the beginning for me with coaching was volunteering, no money. I was interested in knowing if it was something that I could actually do, is help guys develop young players. Dominican kids that don't speak a word of English, that I knew a guy that was he ran a fruit stand in Brooklyn right here, and I used to always go and get mangoes and different fruit from him. He said that my son and a couple of his friends are here from DR, right, for the summer. I see you, throwing in the park or whatever. Can my kids come out and I'll try to play? I said, listen, if I'm going to be out here from 9 to 12 or whatever, just have them come down. We'll mess around a little bit, right? And trying to communicate what you want to get done with a language barrier. Talk about challenging as a coach, right? And figuring out different ways of like touching a guy's shoulder or his hip, or like showing him something and using, that's when you're talking about, do players have aptitude? You can find out. And aptitude is simply the ability to see something and repeat it and execute it. If you're not a fast learner in baseball, if you can't see something and try to mirror what that's happening, it's going to be a real tough journey, right? You also find out who learns more with audio stuff and who learns more visual stuff, right? There's a big difference there. But the good news is that if you're open-minded, like if I'm open-minded, I think that's the number one key to becoming a great coach. Because once I have gotten to a point where I have all the answers, anybody that has all the answers to me at this point is a suspect. They're not impressive. That's not impressive. That's a suspect. It's impossible to know everything about baseball, right? So, and even like minor things. I mean, for me, a key is, like in the beginning, I was super worried when I was working with young hitters and developing them and trying to figure out the best way to teach a swing or individualize a swing or just keep a kid shining on a baseball field. I used to be overly concerned with what other coaches in other batting cages next to me, when I would be doing a certain drill, what they were thinking about how I was teaching or the drill I was teaching.
Yeah.
To a point of like insecurity and like looking over and being like, is this guy, he's been coaching for like 10 years. I wonder if he thinks this is foolish.
Mm-hmm.
Once I found out in myself that, wait a second, that's the most dumbest thing I could ever think. I'm not coaching coaches. I'm coaching players. I need to worry about player feedback. I don't care about coaches' feedback. Yeah, share ideas with coaches, send them swings and say, what do you see, and help out with guys that I've, that's great. But once I start valuing a coach's information that I've never even met him before, there's no coach like on the planet that if I haven't met him, looked him in the eye, don't know what kind of man he really is, haven't had a conversation with him, he can't judge me. I don't care. His opinion is literally just that, just an opinion. Right. And everybody's got an opinion. So once I got freed myself up of being worried about it, and I could go, wait a second, this drill right here, me doing this drill is going to help this guy move the way that I want him to move. And as long as the player says, man, I like that, like I feel my swing, I feel different, I don't care what anybody does. You can do head spins and say the alphabet backwards. I don't care what you do. If it's helping your player and there's a purpose behind it, I'm in.
Yeah, man, I just related to that so hard. Like you saw me just kind of throw my head back and laugh because I remember, like, that's all I did when I was in indie ball. Like I told you before when we hopped on this call, to make ends meet, I did personal training, I shoveled snow, I poured concrete, but like I did lessons. I was just knocking out lessons, and I just really wanted my players to just get better. I don't care if you were trying to make your JV team or you were eligible for the draft. And I remember probably like 6-7 years ago when, I used to follow like Bobby Tewksbury, and it was, Josh Donaldson was just popularizing this new type of like swing sequencing. It was so different than what we grew up with. And every instructor in the cage was like feet, hands, knees, knuckles, knob, answer the phone, squish the bug, stride, like don't move your head, down to the ball, through the tunnel, up the hill, squish the bug. Like these things are like so ingrained in some, in our generation and in our heads, like anyone before the last 10 years. And a couple coaches came up to me and they're like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Because I was teaching them kind of like how to scat pinch and how their hips should sequence before their hands, and like all these different things that I thought was just so new and so correct, right? Like it took me a while to learn how to actually swing. Like I always tell people, I was like, I didn't learn how to hit a ball until like my third year of indie ball. Like I had no idea. It was crazy. So, and I just felt like so judged. And I remember getting over that moment. And I was like, you know what? Like I'm constantly studying this. I'm like going to people. I'm asking people. I'm spending my own money, like paying for programs to learn this stuff. And I'm like, they don't really care that much. And that was kind of the breaking point for me. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna care what anyone says. This is how I want my kids to move. And eventually 2 years later, they all hopped on board. Like, oh yeah, Josh was doing the right things this whole time.
Well, one of the things that I like about the data part of it, for me is, not looking at a bunch of numbers that nothing comes out of it. Like collecting data just for the sake of collecting data is, for me, no better than teaching squish the ball. You're not really doing anything. I mean,
yeah,
but what I like about data is it shows if what you're doing is actually making an improvement. Right? There's hard numbers that can show if I am repeating, this sequence and this is how I moved, this is the result I got. If I'm not tracking that, if I don't have the ability to track that, there's no way to quantify whatever you're doing in the cage is working or not working. If I'm practicing something bad for an hour a day, that doesn't make me better, right? It makes me worse.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoy, being creative and thinking outside the box, there is also a level that it gets to a point when you see guys out there that are trying to do crazy tricked out drills that you don't even see big leaguers doing, and they're doing it with 7 and 8 year olds that have no body awareness. Then it looks to a point like a 7 or 8 year old to me, putting them in specialized training, like with an instructor, I feel like that's a little bit young for me. maybe some other people have different opinions. I know that people have reached out. A lot of guys reach out, dads these days, and I want to put this out there to make sure. And they say, "Hey, is there any way you can work with my son?" And I'm like, "How old is he?" He's like, "He's 7, but he really loves to play." Wait a second, guys. I say like, you know, you're watching me in a group of pro hitters, like do drills and things with pro guys and stuff. You know, at a young age, at 7 or 8, the drills that I would be doing with your son, you could be doing with your son.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you right now, I'll like give you what I would be doing. Get some ping pong balls and throw them at him. You know,
Yeah.
like make him feel great. Make him feel great about just like dropping bombs. Like, man, you really crushed that, man. Like,
Yeah.
make him dream so big and feel so great that it's just the greatest game on. There's nothing he would rather be doing. And by the time that kid's about 12 or 13, and he loves to practice as much as he loves to play, you did your job, man. You can back up and just let him go. You don't have to be overbearing. You don't have to overcoach him. You don't have to tell him anything, because if he loves it more than anything, he's going to practice. He's going to enjoy the practice as much as he enjoys the game. So that's why I would say, with, as far as that stuff goes, you got to be real careful about, you know, like charging a kid that's 7 years old money to create a better swing path. I can't do it. Maybe, and listen, I don't want to say there's nobody out there that can't do it, because anything's possible, I guess. I just have felt like they don't understand when you try to teach something to a kid that has no body awareness, the adjustment's not made. He never makes the adjustment. It's just you looking at things and thinking like, yeah, that's it. It's like, no, that's not it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like even with, I think I've asked a few people, like, what advice do you get? Cause I mean, I had people who would come up to me and they're like, "Can you fix my daughter's swing? She's 6." And I'm like, no, I can't fix your daughter's swing. Is she having fun playing softball? Like, that's the question you should be asking.
Yeah.
But I think like with really young kids, like that don't have that body awareness, that don't have that, that kind of granularity in their mechanics, is just kind of being results focused. How many line drives can you hit in a row? Like, that's a result, right? Can you hit the top right part of the cage if you're a righty? Like, that's a game for a kid that, you know, the result of it might be by happenstance, great mechanics. But that's not the focus. The focus is fun. Like baseball is a game, and you can make it a game in the cage. And
if a kid's 7 years old, I think one of the best exercises I would give him is like, who's your favorite team? It's the Red Sox, it's the Yankees, whoever it is. All right, show me every single guy's stance and every single guy swinging the whole lineup. See if you can mimic every single guy swinging.
I love that.
You know, that type of stuff is what's going to ultimately play. And for me anyway, and like, you know, a lot of times, you know, what we miss out on is something called uninstructed learning, right? Uninstructed learning is the one. We retain some of the most information when it's uninstructed learning. I'll give you an example. If I'm 13 years old walking around in Brooklyn with my friends, right? And there's pretty girls walking down the street with their boyfriend, and like I say something to a girl in like a disrespectful way, or say something that's just like, "Hey girl, hey sweet," something like that, whistle, and like people like are telling me like, "Hey, like don't do that, because somebody's gonna get mad and you're gonna get beat up," right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm doing it, I maybe not learn, and 9 out of 10 guys would just go keep walking, and then one guy might just come up to me and punch me in my face for doing it. That's never happened to me personally, but that's uninstructed learning. After I get punched in my face, I go, wait a second, that's actually not okay, right? Now, the same way we're talking about hitting and over drilling a young kid into specializing him in doing, and do this. Like, if you're telling a kid to do something after every single swing he takes, that's not a good thing. That's over coaching, right? Like if you take, and people always give video games a bad rap, right? All these kids, they do is play video games. I'm okay with video games. I know plenty of guys that are my pro guys, they still play. I know guys in the big leagues, they play. They just handle their work first and then they play, right? Yeah. But if you think about video games is competing, right? Having fun and competing, right? You can judge it all you want. But the difference is, you know, like a 13-year-old kid, he doesn't need a video game coach, like a personalized video game coach to tell him like, "Hey man, go get that box over there. Now unlock that thing. Now shoot that guy over there," or somebody over his shoulder telling him that.
Mm-hmm.
No, he loves the video game. He wants to level up. So he just sits there for hours and hours and hours and figures out different things. You can do that with you and your brother. You can do that with you and your friend in a hit in a batting cage.
Mm-hmm.
Figure it out, right? And spend hours and hours unlocking that next level and go, man, I know how, now I can drive that ball to right field. And if it's out front, I can blast it left. Like that's what I mean.
Yeah, man, I love it. So I got a couple more questions, and then what we're gonna do, we'll go. I have like a rapid fire question list that I ask everybody. I added like a couple more to yours because you're more of a hitting coach, and you really know, you really know baseball. So I have a tough one that's like it sounds easy, but it's kind of tough. But I have a couple more, and then we'll go into rapid fire, which I love. You know, we're talking about coaching, right? You're a great coach, and we're really trying to get to, you know, how do you become a great coach? What are you looking for in a great coach? What's important? So, what I really want to know about you is what do you get out of coaching? What's important to you? Like, why are you a coach?
You know, that is a great question. And to like just fire something out like that is, and just say, without, I know one of the things that I think I really enjoy is like my guys that are in college now that I trained when they came in when they were in ninth grade and I took them through the high school process. They're in the college that they did the recruitment process for them. I get a DM or a text or they just send me a funny meme, right? Like just say, hey Ferbs, how you doing today? Look at this, look how funny this is, right? Like those little things really I think are some of my favorite things. Like not even Christmas and holidays, but just random days. You get a random text from a random player saying, "Hey, coach, how you doing today? I was just thinking about you." That's the stuff that I love. But because I value the relationship aspect about it more. Baseball, I love the game. I mean, and more than anything in the world, except my wife, and that type of stuff. But like you know how that is. So I think that's one of the things is just having the guys reach out like randomly and stuff like that. That makes you feel good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I was the while I was playing, I was the assistant coach at a JUCO, and it's like having like 15 little brothers. Like they're like a few years behind you. They have the same questions. They were basically you at that age. And I just always felt great when they asked me this question about anything other than baseball. Like baseball, we talk about all day, but when they're like, if they want to talk about school, they want to talk about relationships or anything that's going on. I just felt so honored, and it feels like you're the same way. I mean, baseball, it gives a lot back to you, but the number one thing is relationships. You know what I mean?
If I wasn't getting those calls at all, I would probably try to re-examine like, am I really connecting with my players, or am I just trying to go out and win games? I mean, is it just for me to feel good about being able to be around guys and sporters? And listen, I'm not judging anybody for anything. I don't like to judge anybody because listen, I've done so much. Like I have no place to judge anyone, right? I made a lot of mistakes, but because there could be guys out there that are coaching baseball that aren't super high level guys, but they're working with kids that otherwise would be involved in gangs and selling drugs. And if it's a valid option, not everybody has to become a first rounder for baseball to make a huge impact on them. If a kid is at home and his dad's an alcoholic and his mom is, not there at all or whatever it is, and he has a learning disability at school and he can't read well or something like that, and not being he doesn't have to be Mike Trout, but man, he could feel good about himself just like a baseball player can, just by being involved, being around a team of guys that cares about you and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways to utilize it. But I think that's one of the biggest ones for me.
It's awesome, man. I love it. I couldn't agree more. I love that I have the opportunity to just ask you these questions and you have to answer them.
I like it.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. All right, so we're gonna go into rapid fire. I say rapid fire. There's no time limit. It doesn't. Okay. You can take as long as you want to answer these. There's a few of them, and then we'll hand the mic over. And I want everyone after this podcast to go follow you and support you, and just keep getting to know you like I have, and I've just really enjoyed it. So, first question. This is kind of the one I said it's harder than it seems, or maybe it's much easier than it seems. I don't know. But question number one, describe how to hit a baseball in under 60 seconds.
Vision, body rhythm, Be on time.
Be on time. Vision, body rhythm, be on time. So you think those are the three most prioritized things that maybe, do you think all hitters should prioritize those three things, or and maybe some players prioritize them naturally?
Well, if I don't have vision, I can't play, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one. So I have to start there, right? I have to have some type of vision. You know, you could put in like some other ones in there, like effort level is a big
Mm-hmm.
one for me, right? So do I know how hard I'm swinging? Do I have enough awareness to understand like how hard I'm swinging a bat or how easy I need to, right? So a lot of the things that we lose from in the cage to on the field, like if somebody was good enough, and I hope one day, because the breakdown of what people in the hitting world is the guys that are in the cage working on mechanical things and trying to improve guys swing path and their movement, and then what's going on in the game when it's unpredictable, and we have adrenaline going. And the problem is what we really need, if we want to figure this stuff out, is you need to get a heart rate monitor or a pulse rate monitor, and put it on a guy when he's taking swings off a tee by himself or there's instructor. Then you need to see what that looks like in regular BP. Keep that heart rate monitor on him in a regular game in a practice setting live, and then keep it on him with a man on second base. With in the last inning tie game, and it was 2 outs. So because when we become like when the adrenaline gets aroused, let's just say in our body, I really do think that it's going to affect and impact how we move. And other people just go, oh no, it hasn't, because they can't measure it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the data guys don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But we're never going to get a clear snapshot of what happens if we're not talking about what state of mind I'm in a batting cage, and what state of mind I'm in when all my kids on my team are going, yeah, hit a rocket, let's go, right? Totally different state of mind. And it's the same reason, Josh. It's like why is it that you could sit and shoot free throws in your driveway, like 5,000 of them, and hit like 7 out of 10 every time you hit 8 out of 10, like just a regular free throw or a basketball play, and then tie game, you get fouled with 1 second left. You just have to hit 1 out of 2, and guys miss them both.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because it has nothing to do with your mechanics. It does have something to do with your mechanics and how they break down. It's the same exact one in the driveway. You just backspin that ball, just loft it up, and you're good, and it'll bounce around or swish. But like if we're not monitoring that stuff, it becomes real hard to gauge, like say, what is that hitting? But I have to simplify and go see ball, hit ball is best for me. And I feel like after we get all this clutter, and this is what happens as guys listen to different coaches, different hitting coaches, different suggestions. All these guys may be well-intended, right? They very well be well-intended. They want to help you. We get to a point where you're collecting clutter, and you collect more clutter and more clutter. And then when you get into and then you get all the way, I talk to guys that are in the big leagues, and they're trying to just unclutter everything. Their whole goal is to get everything out of their head. And it's like, man, like how do you teach and do all this stuff without cluttering someone's mind with things that don't really matter?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the person that comes to mind like instantly is Altuve. I mean, you can talk about mechanics, but clearly his swing isn't stemmed from mechanics. It's stem. I mean, he talks about, he's like, the only thing I think about is my hips. He's like, that's all I think about is my hips. He clearly has fantastic mechanics, but I mean, when he unlocks on a ball, people might call it athleticism. People might call it great mechanics, but I mean, I feel like and he's one of the first people that come to mind. Mookie Betts is another person that comes to mind. They're those free baseball players, Bellinger, that are just so unlocked, and people that 2 seconds before the pitch comes in, you have this strategy, right? You have this goal to hit like an oppo line drive or something, and you're sticking to that strategy, and then like a 1/10 of a second before that ball comes in, you're like, I'll try to hit it out. like that 1/10 of a second, I feel like that people lose focus. No one really talks about that. You can't measure that in mechanics at all. I mean, it's not measured.
there's so many things that people don't take into consideration. Like, for instance, people that when the pitch velocity, right,
Hmm.
gets to a certain point where it could cause damage to a human, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think a 40 or 50-mile-an-hour pitch can break a bone,
Yeah.
right? I don't even think an 80-mile-an-hour pitch, and maybe if it's 80 and it hits you on your elbow, like perfectly, but once you start getting into 93, 94, 95, 96, you're talking about skipping through protection mode of humans and
Hmm.
going straight to performance mode. We want to skip protection and go to performance. Now, great to say that. How do you do that? How do you keep your mechanically sound swing you've been working on when now a dude that could kill you, literally, right? Is
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it it's as similar as boxers that are their technique is flawless in the when they're in the training environment. Now the guy's actually trying to attack them and they want to cover up and they're out of sync, they're out of breath,
Hmm.
they can't control their breathing. These are innate things that go on in humans. And so like if you ask 10 people on the street here in New York City, hey, what do you think? I give you a helmet and I'm gonna have Aroldis Chapman just stand in and take some swings off Aroldis Chapman. Like, listen, he's pretty good, he's got control, but there is a chance that he could kill you. Like there is a
Yeah.
people will be like, what are you crazy? I'm not doing that. Why would I do that? Right. But
It's not worth it.
there's this other group of people, those Bellingers and those guys that we're talking about, that they would rather be doing nothing else than
Yeah.
doing it. It's not, I don't know if you can teach something like that, but I believe again, that starts at a young age, right? And
Hmm.
getting guys that's a mindset. That's not, and if we don't work on the mindset aspect and the instinct, all the other stuff, it almost doesn't matter.
Hmm.
I think competing comes before mechanics, I guess, to make a long story short.
I love that. And I mean, the first way to learn is to be aware of it. And I think if you're just bringing this awareness and this attention to it, I think that's the very first step. People might say my mechanics break down. It's a mechanical problem, but you're saying, it might be a competitiveness problem. And just even listening to you say that, it just brings attention. It makes you think about, hitting in a whole different way. I think that's super cool. I think a lot of people should really, really think about how, what bucket they fall in and really think about it, not just immediately say I'm competitive, really think about it.
Well, for the parents and real quick, Josh, I just want to put this out there. I think it could help
Yeah, go for it.
for the parents and players, right? That if you feel like you're having that issue where you're trying to question, am I really competing or am I not? Because at a young age, it's tough to know that and be self-aware. Um, just to understand how we approach this competing versus mechanics thing with my players, if they are struggling and they are in a slump, let's just say, okay,
Mhm.
I think early on in my coaching career, we would have focused on how the bat was coming through the zone, if they were early or if they were late.
Yep.
Were you missing under the ball? Were you missing over the ball? And try to fix these things as they come up. Um, those mechanical things now are like 3 and 4 steps back. I found things that were more important to help this guy break out of a slump. And the most important thing that I found is that we all have an athlete core belief system. Okay. Every one of us, if you're an athlete, or you're a player of any sport, you have a core belief system. This is things that when you know about yourself, that you value in yourself, and um, how you feel on the inside, right? And so, if it has my value system and my core beliefs stayed intact through this 30 game stretch, have they stayed intact? Do I still believe in myself and my ability to compete with my peers and add value on this team? Do I still believe that, or is that a little bit wavering now? Am I questioning how good I am? Am I questioning if I should be playing this sport? If I
Mhm.
should quit? Am I questioning? Am I allowing the outcome of what happens change my perception of who I am? That's
Mhm.
a big problem. If I'm waiting for an outcome to tell me how good I am at something, especially in this game, we got problems, right? So I go back to the beginning and ask my guys, like when they have bad games and I know they're clearly off, what were you feeling like in pregame? Did you feel like a beast, like an animal?
Mhm.
What happened? Well, no, I got some problems at school right now. My dad flamed me because I'm thinking about what's going on. I failed a test and I'm grounded for the next 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Well, okay, or my girlfriend just left me for the quarterback of the football team. There's no mechanics that's going to change that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no mechanic that's going to
Yeah.
change that. We have to get in touch with, when I look in the mirror and do I like what I see? Number one, you know what I mean? And can I be myself? Can I be free? Can I quiet noise down? Right? Can I have some zen around me and feel like everything slows down and the ball looks like a cantaloupe? Or do they look like little aspirins coming at me and I'm just emergency swinging like the last second, just flailing, and like swinging at sliders in the dirt, taking fastballs down the middle, So there's a lot of stuff that we go through before the mechanical stuff.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Cool. So next question, it's going to lead back into what we're saying. So what's one small piece of advice any baseball player, regardless of age, they could be pro, little league, anywhere. What's one piece of advice any ball player could benefit from today?
A piece of advice that any ball player could benefit from today. Today's day and age, I believe that the comparisons of who we compare ourselves to, they're not normal. They're not rational. You know what I mean? Like when I was growing up and when you were growing up, maybe I didn't have to look at every single kid that committed to Vanderbilt every time I went home.
Yeah.
I didn't have to see that. I was concerned with being the best guy in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I just wanted to be the best out of 500 guys running around, whatever. Who's the best baseball? A couple of teams in the area. Who are the guys? I'm comparing myself to, in caveman days, I'm comparing myself to this village that I'm in. Who is the strongest guy in this village? Who can throw the rock or the spear the furthest in this village?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not comparing myself to people in California and Hawaii and Japan and this dude's throwing 96 in high school. And I didn't have to deal with all that stuff. So if I can manage to like set realistic tiny goals, because confidence, I think the main thing that we want to get us that would help guys is the confidence aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where everything begins with becoming great at something. Is I'm confident I can do this in front of people. People clap for me. I like when people clap for me, right? I'm an entertainer. Can I be confident about that type of stuff? And it's like, if I set small, tiny, attainable goals, right, I'm going to get more confident. If I set crazy, unrealistic goals about becoming committed to Vanderbilt when I'm in 9th grade, every time I lie to myself, or every time I say, I'm going to get my work in today, I'm going to start training. I'm practicing like a professional now. I'm going to chase this down. And I don't go practice that day and I just sit at home, or I go hang out with my girlfriend, or I go watch some TV and I don't, that's lying to myself, the most important person. Every time I lie to myself about who I am, I'm a baseball player. No, you're just having fun with it. Just be honest with yourself. I'm just here to have fun. So I don't need to train and practice with all you guys and act like I'm somebody on social media. I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
I think being honest with ourselves is where it really could help a lot of baseball players and figuring out, like, is this something I really want to chase down and get after, or am I going to be too concerned with what other people are doing and thinking?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just self-awareness, right? Like who are you? And like the question we had before, why are you a coach? Like you clearly have such a clear like intention of why you're a coach, and it just leads everything else. And I think when people don't have that self-awareness of, why are they doing this? Why am I here? Do I really need to go to Vandy, or is that just what, people have told me, or I'm just comparing myself to people on Instagram? Like you're saying, you have that comparison. I think
Josh, I think that's a huge reason also that when a lot of older guys or coaches, they misunderstand what I'm doing on Instagram or what I'm trying to do. A lot of people don't get it. And the reason they don't get it is because it wasn't designed to be like some huge page. It was literally the point of the page was to connect my team. It started with 14 kids, the kids that were on my team. I didn't strategically make it. I didn't have this plan of like, I'm going to build this page. I didn't really care. What happened was I had kids that were spread out that couldn't come to practice because they weren't. So I needed to connect them with each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so instead of sending text back and forth about, check out this guy, like check this out. The guys were like, hey, can we just, like, one of my players was like, why don't you just make a page and then us 14 can follow it, and then our phones won't blow up, and we can just,
Yeah.
we can learn who each other are that way.
Yeah.
Once I did that, I was just messing around with them. I was giving them nicknames. Hey, Frankie Eyelashes, Joey Coffee Cake, just messing around, and then started putting music on it and things like that. It was for the players. It wasn't for coaches. It wasn't for anybody else. It was to entertain my players and get them to know each other. So here's the mistake that I think I could have made, which thank God I didn't, is that as you go through the process and more followers start to come and more people start to see, now the same exact thing that I was doing in the very beginning, I'm doing now, but people are judging you for it. Nobody cares when you have 300 followers. Nobody cares what you're doing.
Yeah,
nobody gives two what's about how you're developing players. As soon as you get more followers or something, I don't know why that is, but they start judging for things like the music that I put on. A lot of people criticize that. A lot of older people will say, you play hip hop music. It has the N word in it. It has this. I said, listen, I respect it. But here's the thing. If I deviate from what the original things, that's the music that my players listen to. I'm not lying. I'm not here. If I try to put Johnny Cash or some country music on there, some dude from Alabama, Josh, is going to say, Ferb, this guy's a phony. He's from Brooklyn. He listens to Jay-Z and Notorious Big. He's trying to please somebody. That's why I gotta, even though, and my wife sometimes will tell me too, she goes, hey, those words are a little bit aggressive, Jason. You know how your wife will talk to you? A little bit aggressive. You got small kids on there. I said, I understand and I respect it, but I can't please everyone. So I just gotta stick true to who you are.
I love it, man. What's the best advice you've ever received? It doesn't have to be baseball. It doesn't have to be anything related to baseball. It could be, but just what's the best advice for you personally?
That's a good one. The best advice. One time, what really stuck with me. Well, there's two, but I'm going to give you one because that's the question. My father told me one time, if you don't think you're going to know this person in 5 years, ditch him fast. Keep stepping. He says because if I feel like our relationship is going to matter in 5 years from now, whatever it is I'm doing, will it matter in 5 years? I'm going to invest time and energy into building that and growing that. If it's just flash in the pan and this and that, and I'm just using you, then use it as a transactional thing. There's transactional relationships, right? Where I give you money, you give me goods and services, very surface level. Then there's transformational relationships, right? Where it might start even as a transactional relationship, but it turns into something a lot bigger than just exchanging goods and services for stuff, right? So that's one of the things. Is like, if it's going to matter in 5 years, I put energy into it.
I love that. That's really good advice.
I hope you can use it too, John. I hope I know you. I hope I know you in 5 years.
Same. And I think, honestly, we could sit here and we could talk for hours. Like, we're going to have to do a round two because these conversations just lead to so many more questions. I think what you're advocating for is really important. I think you're kind of giving people clarity on really difficult questions. You know what I mean? Which is tough to do in a 60-second Instagram post. It's really hard, which is why I love these podcasts. Just because there's no time limit on it and we can kind of really get deep with it. But I got one more question for you. It's if you could have a billboard to reach millions or billions of people, just, tons and tons of people, non-commercial, not to make any money or anything, just to get a message out, what would your billboard say?
Stay crispy.
Stay crispy, man. So, what does that mean? Tell us.
It's really like, it's fun. It was something that we kind of does. Like when I was younger, it meant like you look sharp, right? You look good. It was something. It was like, hey, that like if you come out in a, one of those wife beater shirts, little gold chain, you had some Z Cavaricci or some Jordache jeans or whatever we were wearing back then with some Pro Cat, right? And you would cuisine and say, hey man, or you came out with a nice sharp shirt. You go, hey man, that shirt is crispy, man. You look crispy. And it just kind of took on its own thing because I would say it to my guys, they kind of liked, I think young players, they like the idea of a grown man, like not having to act like a grown man. right? Like,
Yeah.
and not in a way of that's like a leadership thing, because great leaders, I found, um, they also know how to follow, right? They know how to be good followers. Um, one of the best characteristics that I've heard of from what leaders do is they're great storytellers,
Yeah.
right? They can paint a picture and have somebody visualize something. And so I feel like that's one of the things with the Stay Crispy thing was just kind of like, um, when you go out on the field, when you show up here, you better show up crispy, like belt tucked in. And listen, and I don't want, because people sometimes get the wrong impression. They think, oh, this guy's just trying to be friendly with players and trying to make them laugh. That ain't it. You can ask some of the players, the player feedback.
Yeah.
You miss a sign. If you miss a sign, that's when we're in the middle of a game, you are coming out of the game. And then you're going to, I mean, there's definitely things that go on. If you show up not on time, you're not playing. If you show up in slides and like socks with shorts on, you're not looking like a baseball player, it's not a good look. Like, I'm still old school and purist in the way that I want guys to present themselves, like, not just on the field. When I want my guys to take pride in when they step out the door, that their hair is like perfectly combed over like a shark fin. You know, they brush their teeth. They present every single thing is like handshakes. Like, if a kid comes to me and gives me a handshake that is like not strong and solid, I'm going to talk to him about it. I'm going to be like, yo, that does not play. That will not play. You know what I mean? At any level, you can't not look me in the eye when you say hello to me, whether it's a pound and a hug and how you doing, coach, or how's your day going today? Good to see you. If you're going to look down on the ground and be like, yeah, what's up? No. I don't have any like problem like starting from scratch when guys come in. Like, this is how you shake somebody's hand, literally. Well, I thought we were playing baseball. Nope, can't play baseball until you know how to shake somebody's hand.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's attention to detail, right? I mean, the players that keep progressing, they have that level of detail. They have the scrub and bubbles for their shoes. Do you need clean shoes to be a great baseball player? No, but it's attention to detail. It's taking pride in smaller things that other people might overlook.
Yeah, like when you take a round of BP,
Mhm.
right? And you're 13 or 14, do you just walk out of the cage and say nothing and you say, hey, thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks for the round, coach.
Yeah.
That's different. Kids aren't. I feel like kids are. There's so many different ways you can slide in really good things about life without having to focus all your energy on baseball. While we're doing all this stuff, we should be interacting. I need to be interacting and teaching the skills that matter when a kid gets a job and when he's done playing baseball, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, man. This is fun. We're gonna have to do a round two eventually, because I have notes and more questions, and we got so much more to talk about. But tell us, what's next? Where can people find you? Where can people support you? Go for it.
I've started with just Instagram, and that's where I stayed. I know, like, my friend, Josh Shapiro over at Baseball Lifestyle, he's always trying to tell me, hey, you got to get on Twitter and do some TikTok stuff and do this and that. I tried TikTok and my head almost melted. My brain melted. So I said, man, you know what? It's not for me. I gotta, got a wife that we're expecting, like you. Congratulations for your 6-month-old, right? You got a 6-month-old.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got one boy coming on March 30th. So a couple of weeks. No, 2 months. What's today? January? No, today's what? February?
It's February.
Jeez,
yep. January's long gone. We're done with January.
2 months, you're gonna have a little DJ Ferbs running around here. We're gonna send him some plate crate hats.
Yeah, we'll hook it up for sure.
So yeah, I it's just Instagram. That's where I'm at. I don't do Twitter or the other stuff. I just try to stay in my lane and just do what I do. And if anybody ever wants to DM or reach out or say hello, I'm happy to follow back. I'm not one of these guys that's like worried about like what's my ratio of followers or nothing. If you're cool and you love baseball, you still follow, and that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. This was, I just can't say enough. It's a blast. It's so much fun to talk to you. Everyone that's listening, I hope you got a ton out of this episode, and you go follow Coach Ferber, and you just keep learning and be self-aware, and most importantly, stay crispy.
Yeah. Stay crispy out there, Playboys. Good to see you, Josh.